Hi, I've got with me Bob Needham from Ulverston Amateur Operatic Society and Ulverston Pantomime Society. How are you doing, mate?
I'm very well, Russ. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Last time I spoke to you, you were dragging me up a hill.
Uh, yes, I was. It was 7 miles over Kirby Moor in
Yes.
practice for your walk for the Keswick or Coniston to Barrow.
Yes, which I've deferred. I've chickened out of the relaunch, but you haven't, have you?
No, not at the moment, although we've got to find some replacements for you. And it's going to be a big person to fill your shoes.
Right, mate. I mean, we're here to talk about the theatre, and we're going to get an Ulverston perspective because we're both members of Ulverston Amateur Operatic Society, and unfortunately, we had to postpone our production of Oliver. Which was a crying shame because it's a cracking show, and I think you'd made a wonderful bullseye, mate.
Yeah, I'm sure I would.
Yeah, but where can you see our society going?
Well, as you say, the situation we're in, the society's in limbo at the minute. The production of Oliver has had to be cancelled because of the virus. But we are lucky in as much as Ken and Brenda have put in a huge amount of work over the intervening period to secure the financials that we made on Oliver. We are now in a position where monies that we'd already paid have either been paid back or deferred by the organisations concerned against the 2021 production, or where not possible, we've managed to claim on the insurance. So financially, the society is not in a bad place. But of course, the other thing, as you well know, we were looking to do a number of fundraising and social events over the summer period, which have all also had to be cancelled.
Yeah. This is unfortunately. I mean, you've been brilliant. I mean, you did have to start it at the start of the football when the football came back, but you've been running quizzes to keep the members of Ulverston interested, haven't you?
Yes. Yeah, on a Wednesday night rehearsal. I've run quizzes for the last 6 weeks now, and will continue to do so until such time as the society are able to meet in person.
Yeah, because there's still this massive debate over where do we start, because rehearsal-wise is the beginning. We can't even rehearse tonight at the moment because COVID. I know there's one or two things going around that it's probably not as bad as people make out, but COVID singing is probably still high risk for catching coronavirus. And so until we get over that hurdle, we can't even think about any productions.
No, and one of the biggest issues, of course, with COVID is nobody knows when it's going to end.
No, not at all. I mean, we are gradually getting back to normal, but of course, if people stay sensible, it'll come back quicker than rather than later. I mean, not only Ulverston Amateurs, but you are very heavily involved in Ulverston Pantomime Society. And how are you standing? Because there was a statement brought out by the Coronation Hall this week that basically they're taking no bookings for the rest of the year. So how does that stand you with your January pantomime?
It's really quite hard. We hadn't cancelled it up to now because we had no real knowledge about how the situation was going to play out. The difficulty we have as a result of the Coro's statement this week is they've indicated a time frame for next year which does not meet the needs of the pantomime. So in terms of performance, that could in itself make the whole thing unviable. But beyond that, of course, rehearsals to enable us to do a panto in 2021, rehearsals would have to start in September, which involves singing, it involves dancing, and it involves people moving around together. And at this point in time, that it's in itself is a real problem.
Well,
and then beyond
an
that,
Ulverston
of course,
amateur sorry, mate. Go on.
Beyond that, of course, then there's the issue of social distancing for the audience, and our issues in terms of overcoming dressing room space, even if we did perform.
Yeah, well, as you say, quite rightly say, from both an Ulverston Amateur Operatics point of view and Ulverston Pantomime Society point of view, the dressing rooms are quite tight, aren't they?
Yes.
And quite combined. And I would think that I've been talking for the last couple of weeks with various members of amateur theatre, and one of the ways round, some people said, would have been cabaret seating, but I can't see that working for panto. Or even for Ulverston, really, or for musicals.
No. One of the issues, of course, is that whilst on panto, the Wednesday and Thursday night performances, you could socially distance quite easily. But the Friday and Saturday performances are packed.
Yeah.
And if you start doing cabaret seating, you simply don't get the income that you'd get, and it makes the whole show unviable.
Yeah, and also the atmosphere, because I mean, part of it is mob rule against the bad guy in the panto and things like that.
Well, that's right. Yeah.
So
yeah.
If unfortunately the panto is cancelled in January, and I hopefully there might be some solution. Is that the first time, I would think, since World War II or something like that, you've not had a panto?
Well, 1948 was the first pantomime. So it will have been the first. 2021, if it is postponed, it will be the first time in the entire life of the society that's happened. It's worth mentioning, Russ, and I think this is really important. The Panto Society came off the back of a very, very successful production of Sleeping Beauty, both financially and artistically. The audience loved it. We will definitely be back. Brilliant. We will, if we cannot perform in the January 2021, we will be back with a vengeance in 2022. And I would say that is absolutely the same for the opera. The fact that we can't do Oliver in 2020, 2021, the society will be back with a vengeance. In both cases, they're both strong financially and strong in terms of their structures.
And the membership. I mean, there is quite a solid, hardcore membership there, isn't there?
Yeah.
So going back to Ulverston itself, because you are quite involved with a lot of things in Ulverston. When's the first thing that comes into my mind is the Dickensian Festival. Surely that can't go ahead in November, can it?
Well, of course, the Dickensian comes at the end of November. Prior to that, there's the Charter Festival, the Beer Festival. I think the Beer Festival's definitely been cancelled. I have a suspicion that the Charter Festival probably has. And then the finale with the Dickensian at the end of November. I'm not in a position to comment officially because I'm not on the organising committee, and it would be wrong for me to do so.
Yeah.
But from a practical point of view, social distancing would seem to be extremely difficult.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's basically wall-to-wall bodies, isn't it? The Dickensian. I mean, and a lot of the events in Ulverston, especially around the square.
Yes.
And of course, as was proven, I think last weekend, once the alcohol takes over, people lose the inability to socially distance, I think.
Well, yes, it does. It does become more difficult. But Russ, I must reinforce the fact that I'm not on the organising committee for this. So this is just my personal opinion.
Oh yes, most definitely, as it is mine. But I mean, really, our whole planning for the next 12 months is basically in limbo, isn't it? I mean,
yes,
and it's such a pity because Ulverston Amateur Operatic Society were on quite a roll after the last 2 or 3 shows, award wise and things like that. But Yeah. So how do you see it? How do you see the next 12 months? What would, if you say you're not on any committees, what would you see the next 12 months bringing?
I think there's a lot of work going to have to be done to rebuild the structures again. But I think, as has been seen throughout this crisis, people are incredibly imaginative. The ability with technology has been a real support, but you look around and there's a lot of stuff going on where people have been working together to come up with solutions to issues. Some businesses have actually probably done quite well out of it in terms of those who've been delivering food. And the events that we will have to plan over the next 12 months probably end up being bigger and better than ever.
No doubt about that. Anyway, absolutely brilliant talking to you, mate. Thank you so much. I hope we all get together at Ulverston, because I'm missing every one of you. And I think we're all.
Well, we will get together. And of course, Russ, if you could give up one of your football games, you could join the quiz.
Sorry, Bob, you're breaking up. Sorry, no. I've lost you there, Bob. No, you're doing an absolutely brilliant job, mate. You really are.
Okay.
You really are. So who won the other night then?
Stephen Lindsay, I think.
Oh, what a surprise.
If I remember
right. Anyway, brilliant talking to you. Take care, mate. And let's hope we can resolve these issues and get back to doing what we love.
Yeah, and good to talk to you, Russ.
Cheers, mate.